Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good evening. It's 5:30. This is Update for Tuesday, 7th of May 2024 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes looking at the latest news on the Isle of Man. A background to that news, we've got sport and business and travel updates and the newsmakers in person this evening. A referendum on assisted dying, perhaps. The latest on the Braddan Roundhouse work on the Laxey landslide continues. Bowel screening for 50 to 59-year-olds in our bid to extend our territorial waters.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Faster my Rob Pritchard.
Faster my. The Chief Minister is to bring forward an amendment that could see proposed assisted dying legislation put to a public vote. Potential changes to Dr Alex Allinson's assisted dying bill have been discussed in the House of Keys today. During his remarks, Alfred Cannon said a referendum may be needed to decide whether it should be implemented here. The Health Minister has refused to be drawn into legalities of Braddan Commissioner's Roundhouse access issues during today's House of Keys sitting. Laurie Hooper says questions about legislation should be directed to the Attorney General's chambers or the local authority. Bus passengers are seeing their fares rise for the first time in more than a decade from today. Adult fares paid on the bus are rising by either 10p or 20p, with the cost for children remaining at half price. Changes to the timetable are also seeing some timings move, as well as additional afternoon services between Onken and Nobles Hospital. In international news, John Swinney says he's over the moon to be voted in as the Scottish Parliament's choice to be the next First Minister. Earlier, Humza Yousaf sent his official letter to King Charles to tell him he was stepping down. China's denied hacking into the UK Ministry of Defence's payroll system, describing the accusations as malicious slanders. The UK Defence Secretary is to give MPs more details about the cyber attack today. And the Duke of Sussex hopes to see his father soon. Harry's in the UK but won't be visiting the King because of His Majesty's full programme, which it's understood his son fully understands. Those are your headlines. News in full at 6 o'clock.
Secure tomorrow today with Man Benham's guidance on powers of attorney and more. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Jeremiah, thank you, Rob. From the Ronaldsway Met Office, there's no wind warning in operation for the North Irish Sea. State of sea is smooth or slight. And the weather for this evening, dry with some late sunshine. Just a light breeze. Going to be dry overnight, minimum 9 Celsius. For Ukraine, Wednesday dry and cloudy with bright intervals in a light south-southwesterly. Daylight maximum 14 degrees. Dry after dark down to 10 through the night into Thursday. Dry and cloudy with a light southerly on Thursday. Top temperature 14 Celsius. Tides on the way out. Low water in just over half an hour's time at 4 minutes past 6. Sunset 2 minutes past 9. The late high tide 4 minutes to midnight. Sunrise tomorrow morning 26 minutes past 5 in the morning. Low tide at 12 minutes past 6.
Manx Glass and Glazing are proud to be an approved contractor with Construction Isle of Man. Call the team on 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Chief Minister Alfred Cannon MHK, acting in his capacity as Aaron Michael member, is to bring forward an amendment that could see the proposed assisted dying legislation put to a public vote. A referendum. Potential changes to Dr. Allinson's assisted dying bill have been discussed in the House of Keys this afternoon.
Mr. Speaker, it is clear to me that we are voting for much, much more than the status quo of advancement that this bill implies. It is a much deeper and wide-ranging issue. You must be prepared to accept the consequences that will come in passing this legislation. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I want to use this opportunity to confirm that I will be supporting the amendments to this legislation throughout the debates that do their best to offer greater protection to the outcome, even though I do so knowingly that it is somewhat of a fool's errand. I also want to inform the House today in advance that I will be bringing forward an amendment next week that, if supported, will mean a referendum is needed before the legislation is adopted. There comes a time and a place when the people need their say. In the interim, I will be supporting the amendments today put forward by Mr. Tolls.
Delays on Loganair flights today. The Birmingham one didn't even go, and tonight's London City isn't going, but there's a delay on the Manchester flight. Details later on. The Health Minister has refused to be drawn into legalities of Braddan Commissioner's Roundhouse access issues during today's Keys sitting. Laurie Hooper MHK told Chris Thomas MHK questions about legislation should be directed to the Attorney General's chambers.
Does the Minister intend to block access through the roads around the hospital to Braddan Roundhouse? And if so, when? How, on what legal grounds, using what legal powers specifically? I'm asking for the specific legal power with legislative reference, just to be clear about this. I'm sure the Minister will be able to provide that today, but if not, please could you circulate it to members immediately in a form for Hansard?
I don't intend to answer hypothetical questions in this House. I will say that the Department had a very productive meeting with Braddan Commissioners on Thursday, and I'm hoping that in the very near future we'll be able to make some sort of public announcement which shows that we've reached agreement, but these conversations with Braddan Commissioners are ongoing. We had a very productive conversation with Braddan Commissioners last week on Thursday afternoon. I felt that conversation went reasonably well. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to come to some agreement in the near future. I'm not going to go into the details of those conversations. I don't think that was appropriate. I'm also not going to go into the details of what my personal view is on the legal opinion or any legal situation, and I suggest legal questions are better directed to our learned Attorney General. I would like to try and reassure members that the Department is doing everything that it can, as I've already said, to assist Braddan Commissioners in getting their facility open, but as I have already pointed out, a lot of these questions really aren't for me to answer. They're not for the government to answer. They are for Braddan Commissioners to answer around financing and construction. It is their project. We can only ever act in a supportive capacity.
The only radio station that's Manx, and we're proud of it. Celebrating 60 years. This is Manx Radio.
Fast am I, 23 minutes before 6 now. Work to make safe an unstable bank behind a landmark Laxey warehouse is underway after a significant landslide last month. Several trees have had to be felled and work to repair a damaged sluice will follow. Andrew Smith is one of Garth's MHKs.
From what we understand, on the evening after the rain, water was coming across the MER track, and eventually we understood that there was water running down the footpath, and on investigation recognised that there was a cascade of water coming over the banking at the top that you see there. Following the amount of water, it just massed like a lagoon at the top. Then obviously it brought one of the big trees down because the root infrastructure there was not particularly great on a slate bed rock, and sadly then it brought the rest with it and the other trees. The thing is, obviously the land has been scoured, and also around the edges the earth has been taken from underneath the roots. Obviously it's easy to talk after the event. I'm guessing from what the surveys that we did soon after that, there could have been some issues with the drainage on the MER tracks, whether the drains are not big enough and they got overwhelmed, whether they were blocked, whether there's a lack of maintenance. There could be all kinds of a myriad of reasons. But I think if we start, as I say, with the general maintenance to ensure, so as long as you know that you've got the drainage in place to accommodate the flow of the current flow of water, and then if it's exacerbated in future years by increased rainfall and you need to widen the drains, fine. But at least if all the drains are clear at the moment, to take the water away.
The Isle of Man's wish to extend its territorial waters to the median line between the island and the UK has been raised by the Chief Minister with the UK Ministry of Justice. A Manx government spokesman told Manx Radio that a formal response from the UK is awaited. The moves in a response to a Tynwald resolution which tasked government to commence discussions about securing more benefits from the Irish Sea. A story from Simon Richardson.
The initiative is the result of a petition in the names of Keith Carouche of Ramsey and Philip Crane of Douglas, which Paul Crane MLC presented to Tynwald at the end of last year. During the debate, an amendment was tabled by the Chief Minister that the petition be noted, but given that previous requests had been unsuccessful, efforts should be focused on maximising the island's existing territorial seas. His stance was supported by other members of Comin, but the amendment failed, with Keys and Legislative Council supporting Mr Crane's motion. After the debate, Mr Crane gave his response.
Yeah, it may well be that even though we've got this motion through today, when it goes forward, it may well run into a wall there. That's a possibility, but it absolutely seems right to ask the questions.
So the ball's now in the UK's court. It awaits to be seen if, post-EU and with the UK election looming, there's any appetite for compromise.
This is the most listened to Isle of Man news source, and Manx Radio's Update is the Isle of Man's most downloaded news podcast.
The Boathouse in Port St Mary's become the latest business on the Isle of Man to reduce its opening hours in an attempt to stay in business. The Manx government says it's listening to the sector and is expected to outline support measures at the end of the month. Hayden is the owner and head chef at the Boathouse.
I think a quiet winter has really had a knock-on effect for us. Less people through the door. It really has had a knock-on effect, and the changes we've made recently have just sort of put us in survival mode. I think it's just to get us through to make sure we don't close the doors. For us, our biggest factor is, of course, the wages that you have to pay. That makes it very difficult to get by. And then, of course, the VAT bill every 3 months is pretty much impossible for us at the minute. Simply because in the industry we're in, we can't claim any of it back. So by the end of the 3 months, we're left with a huge bill which we can't have anything to offset against. We're just left with a huge amount to pay. It's very disheartening. Obviously, we've been here a year and a half now, and we've enjoyed every minute of it. We've done very well. We've made a good name for ourselves, and we've been busy. We've seen enough people through the door, and to have nothing at the end of it, like I said, it's just quite disheartening. It makes it quite difficult to want to carry on. The decision came when I sort of sat down with my accountant, and he's basically said by earning just under the VAT threshold, we will be financially just better off by not paying the VAT bill. So by decreasing the wages, which obviously we don't want to do, we want to be able to support the staff so they can have full-time hours here. But unfortunately, we have to do what's best for the business, and that is reduce the hours to not pay VAT and pay less in wages, unfortunately.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 18 minutes before 6, in corporate news, BP nudged lower after it reported a fall in first quarter profit on the back of lower oil and gas prices, an outage at a US refinery and significantly weaker fuel margins. It also started a $1.75 billion share buyback. Underlying replacement cost profit for the quarter was $2.7 billion compared to $5 billion a year earlier and $3 billion for the final 3 months of 2023, BP reported. For a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookall.com. Apple sales have fallen in almost every market across the globe, according to the tech giant's results. The company said demand for its smartphones dropped by more than 10% in the first 3 months of this year, while overall sales fell in every geographic region except Europe. Apple said that overall revenues across the company declined by 4% to $90.8 billion, which was the biggest drop for more than a year. Nonetheless, the results weren't as bad as expected, and the company said figures were distorted by COVID-related supply disruptions, which led to unusually strong sales during the same period last year. It also said it expected sales to return to growth in the months ahead, noting upcoming product launches and investments in artificial intelligence.
The Stock Market Report. Brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
UK and European markets saw solid gains. US stocks rose slightly following a string of gains as investors soured on Disney's earnings. Oil prices ticked up early after Israel struck Rafah in Gaza, and gold slipped as the US dollar firmed. The numbers reported by Ramsey Crookall. At the close in London, the FTSE 100 up 1 2/10%, 8,313. The DAX in Frankfurt up 1.5%, 18,438 at the close. The day continues across the Atlantic Ocean. In New York City, the Dow Jones Industrial a short time ago was up 0.2%, 38,919. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index up just over 0.1% at 16,370. And in Chicago, the S&P 500 up 0.25% at 5,192. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling trading at $1 25.3 cents, €1 16.3 cents, and 23 South African rand 15.3 cents. In commodities, gold's down 0.4% at $2,312 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude down 0.5% at $83.02.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Crookall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
3:45.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Work to extend the Isle of Man's bowel screening programme to include those in their 50s is likely to progress in the 2025-26 period. The story from Sean Cowper.
Douglas South MHK Sarah Maltby asked the Health Minister why 50 to 59-year-olds are currently not routinely screened. Laurie Hooper confirmed his department's policy is to offer screening in line with the NHS in England and that the UK Healthcare Service is gradually rolling out screening for those in their 50s over a 4-year period. He added that the Department of Health and Social Care is currently undertaking a programme of work to draft specifications for all services delivered by Manx Care, with the work relating to screening programmes currently going through agreed governance. Manx Care is also undertaking work to understand the operational implications of extending the remit of bowel screening. Minister Hooper says it's important to ensure the screening can be provided safely and within the resources available to Manx Care. Meanwhile, Mrs Maltby also sought an update on the introduction of abdominal aortic aneurysm screening for men aged 65 or older. While screening is available in the UK, Mr Hooper confirmed the clinical case for this on the Isle of Man is less strong, as mortality rates for men and women on the island were below 0.8% compared to 2.1% for men over 65 in England. He confirmed Public Health will continue to monitor rates, and should they increase, a further review will be triggered.
Manx Radio Sport.
Fast am I, Rob Pritchard.
Fast am I. Good evening. Starting with football, and a potentially pivotal clash in the DPS Limited Division 2 title race is part of another busy schedule of midweek matches in Isle of Man football starting later today. Onken, top of the table after 20 games on 53 points, welcomes second place Foxdale, who are 2 points back but with a game in hand on their hosts. Elsewhere, Ayr United can close the gap at the top of the Canada Life Men's Premier League when they take on Ramsey this evening. Ayr lies second in the top tier standings, 6 points behind leaders Peel. However, the Northern side have 3 games in hand on Peel, who've now completed all their league matches. All of tonight's games kick off at 6:30pm, with the exception of St Mary's versus Moran and St John's United versus St George's in the Premier League. They'll start at 7:15pm and 7pm respectively. In cycling, Mark Cavendish returns to racing action tomorrow for Astana, Kazakhstan. The Manx Missile is in the squad for this year's Tour de Hongrie, which runs from Wednesday until Sunday. The 38-year-old's last outing was in the Presidential Cycling Tour of Turkey in late April, where he finished 119th overall. In rugby, one of the Isle of Man's youth sides has secured cup glory after a hard-fought victory on the Wirral. Southern Nomads under-15s overcame a tough test against Macclesfield to win 21-17 and be crowned Junior Cheshire Shield winners on Sunday. Trailing 17-14 with less than 5 minutes to go, Nomads snatched a dramatic victory late on, courtesy of a second try of the game for captain Josh Manning, followed by a third straight conversion from Ethan Watt. And in athletics, Isle of Man athletes Ollie Lockley and Erica Kelly both secured top 20 finishes during their latest international competitions of the weekend. The Manx pairing were both off Ireland on Sunday, with Lockley contesting the Copenhagen Marathon with England and Kelly taking on the Warsaw Race Walking Cup. In Denmark, Lockley took 17th spot in a time of 2 hours, 22 minutes and 48 seconds. Elsewhere, Kelly produced a season best in Poland in the 20km race, finishing 19th and clocking 1 hour, 44 minutes and 46 seconds.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound at Ronaldsway, the 4:25 Loganair from Birmingham was cancelled. The 5:25 Loganair from Manchester won't be until 6 o'clock. 7:30 EasyJet from Gatwick's on time. The 5-8 Loganair from Liverpool returning patient transfer on time, but the 10-9 Loganair from London City is cancelled. Primarily because the 5:30 outbound to London City has been cancelled. 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool won't be going until 6:30, and then it's the 8 o'clock return EasyJet to London Gatwick showing on time. In Douglas, on the road to Millennium Bridge over the harbour's closed every evening this week to Friday from 8 till 4 a.m. for repairs and maintenance. Hillside Avenue is closed through to Circular Road for a window replacement. Part of Switzerland Road's closed for construction work till November. Temporary lights on New Road, Laxey, near the Lurgy-Graw junction for building alteration. The Croyty-Quill Road's closed for gas upgrade work in Laxey, and temporary lights on New Road for building alterations. In St John's, temporary lights on the main road between St John's and Ballalease Bridge for work on the pavement, and also three-way lights on the TT course and the Portown Road junction at Billig Bridge for bridge painting. Sandygate Road's got some temporary lights for work on the pavements. In Braddan, still that temporary lights on Vicarage Road at Stevenson's Way roundabout for water main replacement. Temporary lights on Belafton Manor Hill and Farm Hill near the Coolford Junction for resurfacing. Phased closures on Ballakill Ferrick Road, Colby. Phased closures on Starvey Road and Kendrockard Road as well. And temporary lights on Church Road, Port Erin near Russian Church for patching works. And no problems reported on the matrix signs tonight.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at Quayside.
A Ramsey commissioner is urging residents to use the new bus schedule to their advantage and enjoy a night out in the town or be prepared to lose it. Ewan McGuinness believes Bus Vanning's new timetable will create more opportunities to increase footfall in the north of the Isle of Man and benefit the hospitality sector there. Ewan McGuinness told us it's something he's called for previously.
Whilst there's a lot of other aspects about the bus timetable, nothing's going to be perfect. Speaking selfishly for the town of Ramsey, we have for a number of years had a poorer service between us and our western villages of an evening, especially on the weekend. There was a really weird anomaly where you could actually leave Ramsey and head west later on a Sunday night than you could on a Friday or Saturday, which I felt certainly made people's choices of whether to go to Peel or Ramsey for a night out and visit our restaurants or pubs a lot more easier to head west. So the current timetable, which continues the work that we put in last year, I think really helps our hospitality trade of the weekend. The later time, or the need for a later time, has been something I've been requesting of the DOI for a number of years. I've raised it consistently for 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years now for the RTC, for Ramsey Town Commissioners, to write to the bus vanning and request it, and they have been open. They've tried a few summer things, but this past timetable is the first time they've really given it a go, and I really hope that the residents of the villages of Belafton, Kirkmichael and Sulby take advantage of this, because of course if you don't use it you will lose it. So it's great to see that the bus vanning do listen on occasion. It's an incredibly difficult time for everybody, but especially the hospitality industry, so anything that allows them to have an edge and attract greater business is got to be welcomed. Ramsey is a huge town, but it's not just for the residents of Ramsey. We are the hub of the north, and anything that allows the residents of the surrounding villages to be able to come into Ramsey and assist in them sort of using the many great shops and facilities we have has got to be for the good.
The Isle of Man in 30 minutes. Update on Manx Radio with Andy Wint.
That's to my 7 minutes before 6. A bid to ensure that all Freedom of Information request responses are routinely published is to be made at the June sitting of Tynwald. Speaker of the House of Keys, MHK for Russian, Ewan Watterson, has tabled a motion on the subject. He's asking Tynwald Court to support the view that all FOI responses should be published unless there are good reasons for not doing so, in which case those reasons should be made public.
And this is really just about the openness, transparency and completeness of freedom of information requests as well. Obviously, if they're happy to issue them to Jewan blogs on the street, then they should be happy to publish them. So I'm not sure why they would choose not to, but clearly there have been instances where they haven't.
Yeah, currently, of course, some are and some aren't. In some respects, government could be said to being selective when it chooses to publish that information.
Yes, and I think there needs to be a transparency around if they're not published, then why aren't they publishing them? And there are, I presume, perfectly good reasons for why they might not, but they need to be justified and publicly justified as well.
A lot of people might be surprised that you didn't, in fact, also know that these weren't published automatically.
Well, a lot are published, so it's easy to believe that all of them are published, but that isn't the case, and I've only found that out recently. So I hope that this motion will be widely accepted and that it will lead to the full transparency of the freedom of information regime.
Intrinsically, you would imagine that there isn't any real argument against publishing them if they're actually issuing them to people who'd made those requests in the first place.
It's hard to sort of think of too many reasons why they would issue it to the individual requesting it but not publish it. The only thing I could possibly think of that they may not be doing at the moment is where they're refusing requests, they may not be publishing the refusal. But I think, again, in terms of being able to sort of do a search through freedom of information requests, knowing that one's been submitted and already been refused is very useful to people who might be doing their own research in a particular area. So even those, I think, should potentially be published as well.
Later this month, the former health minister will ask Tynwald to adopt a code of practice to prevent Manx Care poaching staff from countries with struggling health services. Douglas North MHK David Ashford on why he thinks this is important.
So the purpose of the code of practice is to try and protect healthcare systems in developing countries, to ensure that their staff are not just poached, so to speak, by more developed underdeveloped healthcare systems, leaving them understaffed and unable to provide healthcare in poorer countries around the world. Now, this is a code of practice that is applied in the NHS in England. It has actually been enforced for quite a while. I raised questions with Minister Hooper in the House of Keys a few weeks ago around whether or not Manx Care applies this code, and the answers I got back basically were they take notice of it effectively and they will have due reference to it, but that's not the same as actually saying we follow it. And I think it's an important point of principle that developed healthcare systems around the world don't get into a situation where they are undermining healthcare systems elsewhere. That's not to the benefit of anyone, and it is important that those guiding principles actually are applied here on the Isle of Man. We keep hearing from government in other areas about our international responsibilities. Well, let's actually show it by doing it in healthcare as well.
Do you have a fear that that could happen or is happening?
No, I don't think it is happening. And like I say, to be fair, I don't think we do get a very large recruitment from those countries covered by the code, but it could happen in the future. And I think, it's important that we have guiding principles when we do everything in government.
That's it for Update Tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Rob Pritchard, producer Beth Espy. After the news at 6, Howie Kane's Walking in the Airs. Greatest Hits with Simon Clark at 6:30, John Barker's Folk Show at 9, and Update returns tomorrow at 5:30.
WINT